I do have to find a way. Oh no, we've already done a date adventure with Genie. That's already taken care of for this campaign.
Yeah, that already happened.
So
Excellent.
She's got to write one for next campaign.
It's gonna become our Flumph tradition. Treble's character always goes on an awkward date, and everybody else tags along.
I was listening to the archives before this week, and I got to that point, and I'm like, why do we continue to do this every single time?
I guess it's
Because it
it's
abuses the
funny.
shit out of Brick Road, apparently.
Really fun. So, you guys already know this, but part of my DM style is like find something that makes my player uncomfortable, and then see how far I can lean into it before they push back.
You're a monster.
You asked to sit at my table knowing what I am.
I'm a
He's got a point.
Brick Road's got a lot of weapons in his toolbox for Treble, and two of them are the awkward date and the petulant child.
I hate that that's what Brickroad has landed on for me. I hate that. I hate it so much. It's like nope. It's like nope. Like oh, it's nothing complicated or nothing. It's just It's just like
So we've learned. Did you learn something about yourself that you didn't know before you started playing D&D with us?
no. I learned you're an asshole.
fairness. You should have been able to know that before you started playing.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I'm dying. Like, I'm actually cry laughing right now.
Like other people have like these hot button issues like slavery and child murder. Nope. Like Brickroad's like just petulant child, and we're gonna put him on an awkward date.
No, we've done
There
child
we go.
murder in this campaign.
Yeah.
You guys got Giannis killed. And probably
That's no.
probably Tenny. It just hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay, fuck.
Way to bring the mood down.
I know, right?
I'm trying to get back down to the Ravenloft baseline here,
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
which is by definition down.
I did make a note of something I wanted to say in the Discord this week.
Oh, I don't read the Discord
Okay.
during the week usually.
And kind of have a in character kind of a thought band
about Evelyn?
Yeah. Yeah, so we know that the magic that destroyed Endelyn, or that Endelyn used to destroy Air's Eye back in our home world, and then also sacked Brennanine, did not require the use of the relic magic that we commonly use in our world. And we have Aslan here in this world who uses the same style of magic.
It sounds like an
Oh.
interesting connection.
Yeah.
Is there a question forthcoming, or are you just pontificating?
No, I'm basically a little bit of pontificating, throwing that out there to give everybody else something to chew on.
I mean,
a
I
little bit.
can answer the pontification without spoiling the campaign.
Did Aslan bring us here?
No, Aslan does not have that power. Now, your characters don't know that Aslan doesn't have that power, obviously, but
Obviously. That's what makes it so fun.
so remember that the campaign that we started in was based on like a game design doc that I wrote for like a Suikoden ripoff before that Kickstarter announced the real Suikoden ripoff. And
Yeah.
one of the plot points in that game was that the evil empire that was invading claimed to have the new high priest of the Aetherine Church. And by way of proving that, they actually did have a young woman who had sorceress ability. Like a 1 in a million magical ability that didn't require the use of relics. So that's where a lot of the conflict came from. Like, oh, they actually do have the new high priest. Maybe they're not the bad guys. And that plot point just got thrown into D&D because I needed a quick way to just blow Brennanine up.
No, yeah, fair.
But it wasn't Aslan. But you can go ahead believing it was Aslan, and that's perfectly fine.
We may decide we're going to kill Aslan because he stranded us here.
Yeah, good luck with that. I thought Evie loved Aslan.
She just loves his electricity.
Jeannie loves the electricity. Evie's been going around saying, Aslan gave us the deed to the house, so we live here now, so y'all gots to leave.
Yeah, she said it exactly like that.
She said that to the dog people that lived here already, the indigenous dog people. She said it to literally the oldest being alive on her land.
I feel like calling a werewolf a dog person is slightly racist.
Also varying the lead a little bit.
Are any of you werewolves? Are any of you offended?
Well,
I don't know. Let us know.
Edmund leans forward. Edmund leans forward into the mic and says, "Yes, please answer the question."
Whatever, dog. You're a dog.
I also had a note when we get back to the village.
Arriving back at the village, there are 2 new developments that may or may not, at your discretion, require your immediate attention.
Sure.
The first is one of the small farm plots just outside of the village, encircled with a fence, is cram-packed with woolly goats.
well.
2 or 3 dozen of them at least. A lot more than should be in a space this small. It's just that they don't have a lot of enclosures to use in the village currently, and it would have taken like the better part of a day to build an enclosure, but they haven't done that. Somehow, your villagers, while you were gone, have come into possession of about 2 or 3 dozen woolly goats. I hope everybody is picturing the same thing I am when I say woolly goat.
Minecraft goats?
Not quite that blocky.
Do they scream like a man?
All goats scream
Are
like
you
a
going to
man.
poke one find out?
I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Sorry.
That's not what the goats sound like in Minecraft, but okay.
So
That's a different
remember what we
joke.
said when we said bring it back down to like Ravenloft level energy? I don't think it's happening yet.
Are you not scared of the woolly goats?
I am terrible at Ravenloft energy.
Victor will go pet one of the woolly goats and say, "Wow, he's kind of cute. Where did he come from?"
Oh, he's hostile because looks like he's been trapped in this enclosure for a couple of days with no space and like virtually nowhere to lay down, and who knows if they've been fed. The whole field has been completely trampled. These goats are not in any kind of disposition, so when you reach your hand in the enclosure, like one of them lashes out, snaps at you, and you get your fingers out of the way just in time. And then they all start screaming like a man.
Why aren't
Evie?
That's bizarre.
Evie,
Why aren't these
your
all praising?
Don't look at me. I didn't order any goats.
Your village is in the middle of a very heavily wooded area. There's not really much in the way of grazed land around here. And you guys have not seen woolly goats on the indigenous species list. I mean, you've done some thorough explorations of the area. Like, not only are there no woolly goats native to this area, there's really nowhere they could live.
Like, Jeannie's gonna flag down the nearest villager and ask him where the goats came from,
And
where the goats, why the goats, when the goats,
How the goats?
how the goats.
Who the goats?
you flag down one of the villagers who is on his way to the church to attend mass. And he tells you that the goats appeared one day. Some of the loggers were out in the woods, and each of them brought back a goat on a rope. And then a couple days later, some more loggers came back. And eventually, a boy was apprehended, a shepherd boy, kind of wandering bewildered through the woods, desperately trying to lead and herd his entire flock of goats. He doesn't speak Darkanese, and he tried to fight when the villagers started stealing his goats. But, I mean, a couple of the villagers beat him up, and he is currently tied to a post outside of your manor house to await your return and judgment.
So they beat up a child.
I say child. We're talking like 14, 15 years old. It's about
He
your guys'
beat up a
age.
shepherd.
So about the same age as my brother.
And then the villager continues on to the church.
Who's giving mass?
Evie, handle it.
Like like Jeannie yells back. Like they're going to mass. Who's leading mass?
Oh, Athar Pokeen is giving mass.
Who?
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 Evie looks at Ekon like, have you been giving Athar lessons?
Have I?
Is that what they're called? Athar lessons?
I don't know what else to call it. Ecclesiastical education,
Have you started a seminary?
theology.
No, as far as I know, Ekon has not done any of that.
No. No.
Okay,
All right.
Evie, go handle the goat situation. Ekon,
No, let me
let's
handle
go
the goat
find out-
situation.
You want? Okay.
Well,
Somebody
when you say
handle this.
the goat situation, what are we referring to?
All of it.
There are a couple of goat situations occurring simultaneously.
Okay.
I think what I need to do is we need to fell some trees in the area, get them some grazing land, and get them some more space to move around. For one thing,
You could build them an enclosure near to the village, but grazing land is not really going to be a possibility long term.
We need to go talk to the goat herder shepherd dude and find out exactly what happened. So
All right.
why don't you take comprehend languages and go do that?
So who is going to deal with the goats in the enclosure right now?
I am.
Edmont, you're going to stay here at the enclosure.
Yeah.
Evie says, Edmont, administrate these goats.
Administrate the goats? Edmontistrate the goats.
I think
Administrate the
No.
goats.
Evie.
Who is
Evie,
going
why
to
don't-
go talk to the captured shepherd boy?
I think that should be Evie and Victor because between them they have comprehend languages and Victor can mind meld.
And
Edmont
everyone's comprehend
grudgingly-
languages.
I know that.
Edmont grudgingly acknowledges Evie's instruction, her directive, her command as the Duchess of the land.
So,
So you don't like it when I give you orders, but you also don't like it when I don't give orders. I just can't win with this guy.
you can't win with anybody. You're Ruby. That's her life. Are Evie and Victor? Is that where you guys are going to the shepherd boy?
The reason I say Evie and Victor is because Victor's the only one that if he doesn't speak any language we don't know, Victor's the only one who can speak with him, and we can't let Victor go unsupervised.
So you're going to send the two people that stab things to talk to the goat boy.
I trust my sister implicitly.
I think they have a lot of secondary skills too, not just stabbing.
So who is going to go talk to the shepherd boy?
Evie will go.
Victor can't dispute the logic of the sonic ability.
So is that a yes for Victor?
Yeah.
And then the other two of you are going to the church?
Yeah. I mean, the two people that are most likely to set something on fire. Let's go.
Just remember, we live here.
Let's get a perception check individually from all players.
It's not good for
Ekon.
Edmont.
That's going to be 13.
What did Jeannie get?
I'm trying. Hold on.
Victor got a 14.
That is 11.
11, 13 for Jeannie. What did Evie get?
21.
Victor got, what, a 14?
Yeah, 14.
And Edmont got numbers?
A 4.
That's
One
all-
number.
It's almost a number.
It's kind of a number if you squint hard enough.
Jeannie and Ekon, the two of you approach the church, and as you do, there's a small crowd milling up outside. A lot of repairs have been done to the structure while you guys were gone, so it has that like fresh lumber smell, like that new building smell that's so coveted. And as I recall, Ekon was going to leave directive to, once one of the local mines was open, to source somebody who could design and craft a new bell for the tower. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That work obviously hasn't been done yet. Not enough time has elapsed to get a mine open and get ore back and start refining it. What has been done is you see a group of village girls off to the side, and they're busily crafting rope because they know that this bell tower is going to need a very, very long length of rope. And so they're going to probably be at this for several days, but they're delighting in the task. The crowd outside, when I say crowd, I mean maybe a group of 10 or 11 people or so. There's a similarly sized group of people inside listening to Aethar Pokeen, who is giving mass, but Ekon, without even making a religion check, he's getting quite a lot wrong. I will allow you to make an insight check. Jeannie, you can also make this check if you are trained in religion.
I am not.
Okay.
I got a +3 to it, but I'm not trained.
That's a insight of 18.
18. Ekon. I mean, are you immediately putting a stop to this, or are you going to sit and
No, I'll let him carry on.
witness
See,
it for a few
I
minutes?
can correct this after the fact.
So,
Am I going to, like, shoot him? Do you want me to shoot him?
No.
lots of people inside of the building are clutching little baubles. And it's difficult to see what they are because they're clutching them in their hands and holding them to their chests. Some of them also are wearing them around chains around their necks or lengths of rope, like hemp around their necks. So you really can't see what they're holding. But the man giving the mass is speaking a lot about favors from air and how the church can bequeath these favors to you for a small stipend. He's running a con. He's selling people these little baubles. And he's using...
Okay, now I'll put a stop to it.
How so?
I think Ekon is going to walk in there and just kind of boldly proclaim, excuse me, I don't think that you're actually a priest of air of any sort.
And you turn a lot of heads just as you're walking up to Pokeen. He's much, much older than you. Probably one of the laborers who was, up until he discovered this con, felling lumber or dragging supplies around or tilling soil or whatever he does. Make an intimidation check.
Got it.
Is there any way I can assist with this?
Are you
That's
approaching with,
intimidate.
are you approaching
Yeah.
with Ekon?
Yeah, and I have my weapon drawn.
Okay.
That's an intimidate of 4.
A 4?
Yeah.
You can roll that at advantage if you honestly are going to allow Jeannie to threaten this man with her gun.
Threaten or actually let her hurt him?
That's Jeannie's call. You have to make the determination.
I will wave Jeannie's weapon down. Wave at Jeannie to put down her weapon.
This guy is good. Not only does he not immediately stand down when you step forward to challenge him, but he immediately incorporates your presence into the mass that he's giving. And he immediately gives you credit for bringing him into the light of air and teaching him all of the things he knows, so that while you are out doing air's work in the wilds, keeping the village safe, he is able to tend to the spiritual needs of the flock. And there is a murmur of agreement throughout the church as he says this.
I whispered to Ekon, I can still shoot him. I can even use fire.
And Ekon, again, just doesn't really have the force of personality for this, so I guess what he will do is he will... Well, let me look what spells I have today. Nothing I really want to use. Okay. Who else is with me? Is it just Jeannie?
Just Jeannie.
Yep. Do you want an enhance ability?
No. We'll just let this play out, and then we'll deal with it afterwards.
That just sounds like a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
I am. Jeannie's letting you know this sounds like a terrible idea. I am very, very on board. Let's go.
So by letting this play out, you're going to let him finish his mass?
Yeah, I apparently can't do much to stop him.
So what are you two doing? Are you just going to fade into the back of the church, or?
I will let Ekon know. It's like, you do know by letting him finish this mass, you are giving it your seal of approval, right? It's this an implied seal of approval.
As the two of you kind of step to the side, Pokeen refers to Ekon with the honorific father. Calls him Father Ekon, as he is the father of having brought this religion to this region. This is an honorific that sounds correct to us as players, but this would sound incredibly weird to your characters who have grown up in this monotheistic world your whole lives. You're not the father or founding of anything, and even if you were, that's not an honorific that you would be called. But yeah, he continues to get things wrong, but he's selling the idea of what are functionally good luck charms to the people. And at the end of the mass, everybody is very happy. And he has a couple little helper guys with a crate filled with straw with these little baubles in them. And several people do approach to purchase one. And after that, the people outside who don't have them yet are allowed to come in if they have the money to buy one. Otherwise, you learn they're not allowed to attend the mass. So Air has spoken.
Ekon, if you do not put a stop to this, I am. The reason I say this is because if I don't put a stop to this, I'm going to have to hear this from Evie.
I was planning to have him arrested after this and have him get all the money back from him and have a trial.
So he, after the congregation is starting to break, and the second the have-nots are allowed into the Holy Church to purchase their good luck charms, Pokeen comes over to have a friendly conversation, and it's all a front. You've seen directly through this guy.
Is there still people in the church?
Ekon's just gonna be very terse with him.
And Jeannie turns around and says, "Get out of the church now."
Who are you saying this to?
Everybody in the church that is not Pokeen or one of his little helpers.
And it seems to create some confusion when you turn around and say, everybody out of the church. Because some people look to Ekon for direction, some people look to Pokeen for direction, and some people don't know where to look.
I can all nod if anyone looking to him.
And, some of the people look over to Pokeen's two helper men, and he gives them a slight nod, and they pick up the crate, and they start carrying it out the front of the church.
No. The two of you stay here. That stays here. And
one of the men sets the crate down, crosses his arms. "It's on whose authority? You are the Duchess's sister, not the Duchess. You have no authority in this church."
And I'll point my gun at him.
And he
what did I say?
Puts his hands straight up and takes a step back, and some of the other people in the church, who a moment ago were very happy and spiritually enlightened, hustle on out the door.
Over there.
Where are you directing him to? Just to the side of the...
Just to the side over there, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to close the door to the church, and I guess if there's a bar or a lock, I'm going to lock it.
It's up to Ekon whether there's a lock on the church or not.
No, there wouldn't be.
Okay. And Ekon, you can already hear the day's gossip. So yeah, you point the two men over to the wall, and they go over to the wall, hoping to not get shot.
That's not a real gun. Let's be clear.
He doesn't need to know that.
When he says it's not a real gun, what he means is it's a magical construct that can do way worse than shoot you.
And Pokeen, after most of the flock has left, you see his demeanor turn to confusion more than anything. He says, "Well, what is the meaning of this? I thought you would be pleased, Father."
Alright. We're gonna have to have a little talk about exactly what goes on in this town as far as air, and that only goes as far as I allow it.
I don't understand. Who is supposed to tend to the congregation while you're out adventuring and dungeon delving?
Look, I might not exactly be able to convince a crowd to listen to me all the time, but I definitely see through what you're trying to do here. So stay here, and we'll go get someone, and we'll throw you in a dungeon for a little while.
And you see the look on his face, like he kind of stammers out this not understanding. Why are you dungeoning me up? I thought I was doing good work.
Pocket, was it? Pocket?
Both of you see the other two men letting out through one of the open windows of the...
No. And I point my gun at him. No, back down.
So you're leaving Genie here to train a gun on these guys while you go get authority to dungeon them up?
And I explain to them, it's like, listen, like, accept the dungeoning, because the thing you have done in, like, the actual punishment is to be burnt alive.
Edmont, give me an animal handling check.
Absolutely, I would be more than pleased to do so.
We could say Orson's helping you too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to... I was going to get Orson, basically.
That makes sense.
That's a 20 on animal handling.
So, these goats, they're not in a bad shape yet. They haven't been penned up long enough. But, like I said, they're probably ill-tempered to begin with, and being cramped into this space is not doing them any good. You're pretty sure that most of them haven't had a chance to eat their usual diet for as long as they've been in this pen. That being said, if you are able to find a way to keep a stable breeding population of these goats, their wool and their meat would be tremendous assets to the village.
Yeah. And I'm totally down to start looking at that.
So over the course of a few minutes, like, you get one nearby, one of the smaller kids, to get it to kind of calm down for a moment. They're definitely domesticated. You can tell that they're probably used to being shepherded around. You find some hand gestures that he responds to.
Okay.
Do you name the goat, and is it now your best friend?
No, I don't need to name the goat. But I will direct some of the men to construct a bigger enclosure for them. One that would be better suited to their needs.
Well, right now there's really nobody around to direct. Most of the people were up at the church.
Well, I guess I'll make do with what I can for now, but there's really not, because they need space to be able to do their goatly things.
Oh, they're doing their goatly things all over this space. You can smell it.
Yeah.
And standing there for a few moments as you're able to get this goat calmed down, you hear something come up behind you. And you turn around and it's Tenny, and she's holding two huge buckets of water, sloshing as she is walking towards the enclosure. And she sees you, and her face lights up. Edmont, you're back safely. And she picks up her pace, sloshing most of the water onto the ground as she does.
Edmund puts on a pleasant face. It goes to help her with the buckets of water.
And it's all she can do to lift this bucket up over the fence and place it down on the inside. And some of the nearby goats immediately start to try to stick their faces into it. And
probably need a trough or something like that more than just a single bucket. But you're on the right track so far.
The problem is, after a few moments, a couple of the goats lap at the water for a little bit, but then the scuffling breaks out and the bucket is inevitably kicked over.
Yeah.
And you can see that Tenny has probably been doing this exasperated work for a couple of days now.
So what happened, Tenny?
She
how did
shakes her head.
they come here?
She tells you that the men
they all-
started bringing goats back from the woods, but they don't know how to take care of goats, so they don't seem to care what happens to them. And they all say, we're going to be eating goat all through the winter, but we're not if they all die of dehydration, are they?
No, you're right, Tenny, and now that I'm here, I guess I can help with that.
And she reaches over and takes the toppled bucket laying in the mud, drags it back over the fence, and starts huffing and puffing back towards... where is your water source in town? Evie had a well sunk, didn't she? Somewhere?
I think somewhere in the center.
It might be time to update this map, Saul.
Okay.
There are no tangled roots or red vines or anything, by the way. All of that is gone when you return.
Oh, neat. Guess we ran the eldest off of this place for now.
But yeah, you learned from Tenny that she's been taking several trips every day to try to get water into the enclosure, and that none of the men so far have even started on building a bigger enclosure for these goats.
Yeah, we're going to get started on that as soon as possible.
So she basically puts you and Orson to work hauling buckets for a few moments.
Yeah.
And it's a frustrating task. You go and collect a bucket of water, you place it in the enclosure, some goats fight over it, a few of them are able to sate their thirsts, and then the bucket gets kicked over. It's all you could do to keep the buckets from getting broken.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm like, we need to find somebody who can... Who need to find, like, maybe Demetrius or somebody to build a trough for this stuff.
And on your second trip back to the fence, a crowd very hurriedly lets out of the church nearby, and people begin filtering out. And there is a lot of hurried, confused, sometimes irate conversation. And you quickly learn that Jeannie pulled a gun on Aethar Pokeen and is going to execute him in the name of air. Evie and Victor.
Brother, why did you let Jeannie do that?
Mm-hmm.
The manor house itself is largely untouched in the village. The villagers are going about their day, but the manor house is kind of your guys' purview. They can be directed to make what repairs and deliver what supplies you require, but there does seem to be an understanding amongst the villagers that the manor house itself is hands-off. This is the Duchess's homestead, or at least will be, once it's completely fixed up. But there is a stone post, probably the remains of an old fence, that had an old rusty hitch attached to it. Maybe for dogs or livestock, you don't know. And right now, attached to it by a rope looped through the hitch, wrapped around his arm, is this 14 or 15-year-old boy. He's wearing a soiled robe. Definitely not the kind of clothing you'd wear wandering around the forest. It's nowhere near warm enough. Looks very thin, very baggy, and it's completely covered in mud, and it has tears, and his face is bruised and caked over his lip with dried blood. And as you approach, he kind of picks his head up, and you can see that his lips and tongue are completely parched. And he begins saying something angrily in a language that neither of you have ever heard before.
The hell did they do to this poor kid?
Well, I'm going to cast Comprehend Languages, first of all.
And the first thing you understand, how long does that last? That lasts for like an hour or so?
Let me check. Yes, 1 hour.
The first thing you understand out of his mouth is how he has seen how the moon goddess is going to return everything on the bitch queen Evelyn that was done to him tenfold. And he spits at your feet, but he's so badly dehydrated that it's just a dry gesture.
What's he saying there? Do I need to mind meld him?
It probably sounds like what it sounds like. Like what he's saying sounds like this is just angry snarling, and that's what it sounds like to me too.
Let's get him a drink of water.
Yeah.
Let me start with that.
Yeah, well, I'll get like a bowl or a bucket filled with water brought to him.
Okay. And after a few moments, you flag down one of the servants, and they are able to bring over.
Victor will ask the servant how long he's been tied up like this.
3 days, going on 4.
Has he had any food or water during that time?
He looks up at the sky. It rained 2 days ago.
Victor sort of face palms and says, "Give me something to eat."
What shall I bring him?
Something easy. I
He
don't know
nods.
what kind of foodstuffs do we actually have in the village. Like,
I mean, there's a bakehouse.
get him a chunk of bread.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, this kid is angry, and even understanding what he says, he's in no mood to converse. Go ahead and give me an insight check. Actually, make this at advantage.
Okay. I got a 26.
26.
17.
Not you. You can't understand him.
Oh, okay.
You don't get anything useful out of the kid. Just a lot of verbal abuse and slurs towards you in particular, by name. But it's not hard to figure out what happened to him. He was a goat herder. He and his flock wandered into some mist and wandered out into your woods.
Mm-hmm.
He was come upon by your loggers. They were like, hey, goats are useful, and took the entire flock. And every day, the loggers return with more and more goats. So this kid spent at least a couple of days in the woods, like trying to keep his herd together, not knowing where he is and being in an unfamiliar environment. And then your people found him and decided to commandeer his goats. Sitting next to him on the ground is his shepherd's crook, broken in 3 pieces. You can kind of also imagine what must have happened there.
Victor will pick up the pieces and kind of hold them out and shake his head and try to put them back together.
I mean, it's a wooden staff that's been broken, and as you
No.
as you lean down to the ground and try to pick one up, I mean, the kid doesn't have the reach on you, but he lashes out with his left arm and tries to knock you away. And Evie, I'm assuming, is going to be too polite to properly translate what he calls you.
So Victor will pick up the pieces of the staff and then offer them to the chained up kid.
I mean, they're right nearby. He already has them.
Oh, okay, so he does like not out of his reach or something.
No. In fact, you would have. I would make you pass a dexterity saving throw to pick them up without getting clocked.
Oh, never mind then.
But the way
So the
he's
light-
lashed to this post, like he can't comfortably stand up. He would have to twist his arm at a painful angle to get up to his feet. So he's kind of just slouched in the mud, and you see he's been in this position. Your servant has told you for 4 days.
I'm gonna talk to him, Evie. Okay, he looks like he's not happy.
Yeah. This language that the kid is speaking is not recognized by anyone in the village, not even Demetrius, who I believe came from... He seemed familiar with the languages of the greater kingdoms around Darkon as well.
Demetrius and his family speak Falconian originally, but it's correct. Nobody in the village understands his language. But unlike you guys who are living in Brennanine, it's not extremely strange for people in Darkon to come across folks that speak a language nobody's ever heard before, and it's
Okay.
easy to figure out why. You guys showed up speaking a language nobody had ever heard before.
Yeah, I guess the way this world works, that kind of thing is just going to happen. Yeah,
Well,
I motion for Victor to continue.
that's what you got me for. So Victor will establish a telepathic link with the kid.
And about this point, you guys see Tenny and Edmont and Orson hurriedly coming up with empty buckets to fill with water. What do you tell the kid in his brain?
So the first thing I tell the kid is, if you calm down for a second, I'll adjust your restraint so you're in a more comfortable position.
He responds that should you take his hand, the Night Mother will take both of yours. And should you take his foot, you shall never walk again. And should you take his life, you shall be tortured in her halls.
Listen, kid, I don't plan to take anything. I just want to adjust your bond so you're a little bit more comfortable.
I mean, there's not really much you can do to adjust his bond, honestly.
Well, kind of like untie them and retie them.
I mean, you could. That might be cruel.
Okay, how about this then? If I untie you, are you going to try and run or attack either of us?
And you see the defiance in his face for a moment. Then he drops his gaze. And you can tell they've already beaten all that out of him. He just seems dejected.
Okay, listen. We just got here. We're trying to find out what's going on. It seems like we have a basic understanding of your situation. There's a lot of goats. You have a goat herding cane, so obviously they're your goats. I'm not sure why they're in a pen over there, but judging by your state, it sounds like some people acted inappropriately. So what I would like to do, I would like to untie you. I would like to give you some food and some water, and then perhaps we can have a civil conversation between the three of us.
And he
Is that amenable to you?
shakes his head and says, "Not my goats. The goats of King Giorgino. Giorgino will send 10,000 men. He will burn this place and offer you all to the Night Mother."
That's great, but for what it's worth, King Giorgino's not coming. You have wandered a little bit off course there, friend.
I have seen it. I have prayed for it. You will all burn.
Okay, that's great, but do you want me to untie you and you can be civil or no?
At that, he clams up. Like, again, you see defiance in his face, but he's not so defiant that he's going to pass up the opportunity to have his bonds cut.
And Victor will glance at Genie and say, I'm going to untie him. He may try and run, so just be ready. Hopefully he's smart enough not to.
I'm faster than him.
He would be effortless to catch. He's in a non-rested state.
So Victor will untie his bonds, cutting them if he needs to.
And I mean, his arm falls limp to his side, and you see him wince in pain as the needles of feeling spread back down through his muscles. And he starts massaging his right arm with the left. And you hear him in the mind meld, and he says, "A sliver of gratitude will be offered to you for this. While you are being tortured in the Night Mother's halls, I will see it."
Well, that's a start, isn't it? So Victor looks around to see if the food or the water is come back yet or on the way.
The servant is on his way back from the bakehouse, and he seems to have been delayed by a group of people outside of the church. And you're hearing a lot of murmuring in that direction. And the servant hurriedly comes up and is holding bread and a wineskin with water, and thrusts them into Victor's hands and turns immediately towards Evie and says, "Duchess, your sister's in the church. She's going to execute the Aethar."
God damn it.
The hell?
Hang on, Victor. I gotta go take care of this.
I won't kill this guy, I promise.
So you give him the wineskin and a crust of yesterday's bread, and the kid just starts devouring it immediately. Like, you can tell that just all of the anguish and pain of the few moments ago is lost in the current situation of holding bread. You don't think this kid has had anything decent to eat since he walked through the mists.
Probably not. Victor will stand there silently while he eats and drinks.
Okay.
And then when he finishes, he informs the kid that he would like to take him into the manor house and introduce him to somebody who may be able to answer some of his questions about where he is.
And you're still speaking to him in the mind meld, yes?
Yeah.
He asks, "The dark-haired witch woman will have nothing to do with her."
Is he talking about the Vistani that we have?
I'm assuming that's who you were talking about. Or
That is who I was talking about, yes.
He's assuming that's who you're talking about. Okay. So Edmont and Orson and Tenny are still slopping the goats. Victor is slopping the prisoner, and Evie is rushing toward the church. And as you approach the church, you see a couple of men standing outside. And as you approach, they kind of look to each other confusedly and look back and say, "I'm begging your pardon, Duchess, but your sister ordered us out and said no one was to come in."
Excuse me, and I'll walk in.
Okay, you gotta shoulder your way past. Genie has a gun trained on two of your lumberers against one wall, and Ekon is having a terse conversation with a man wearing what I'm going to call knockoff Etherine robes and vestments.
Okay, somebody explain what just happened. Evie looks to Genie and Ekon like, why don't you start explaining?
I mean, I'll very.
Ekon will start. So this man has been impersonating a Athar and using said position to sell worthless
Impersonating?
baubles.
I didn't ask you to say anything.
I should be allowed to speak in my own defense.
Open your
Impersonating,
mouth,
I am a...
And I will cut out your tongue.
He immediately clams up.
Continue, Ekon.
I got everyone else out of the church and figured we should probably, I don't know, arrest him? Is that what we're doing? Arresting people?
So, this is selling indulgences. That's what he's doing.
Yep.
I keep trying to explain to them that like they should accept the jail time because the alternative is being burnt at the stake. But they don't want to listen to me.
I'm not making any silver off of this. Do I also get my tongue pulled out? This is one of the men that Genie has a gun trained on.
I think you're mostly, and I'll tell him. I said I think the two of you are mostly here for witnesses, to be witnesses. Is all. Don't worry about it.
Begging
I
your
think we're
pardon.
going to have to actually find out what happened here because I'm pretty sure both of them were involved.
One of them says he doesn't have the stomach to watch another man die. He was just doing what his brother told him.
Alright, I approach the guy in the fake Aetherine robes. Okay. It's what my cousin says true. You can speak.
I wouldn't, of course, gainsay Father Ekon in his own house, but truthfully, I'm not an impersonator. The people of the Father Ekon had gone searching treasure, which an endeavor that I understand is holy in the eyes of air, and but the people required a good counsel and. He's just stammering out. I'll let Ekon and Evie make insight checks here.
Yeah, I want to know, is he really confused or is he trying to make a buck?
That's why you're making
Ekon
insight
is
check.
shaking his head towards Evie like his impression already was he was not confused. That's an 18 on insight.
How did Evie do?
17.
17? It's more complicated than he's just trying to make a buck. The way he's acting now is like a man who thought he was doing something correct, starting to learn like he wasn't doing it correctly. Whether that's an act he's putting on or it's genuine, you have no idea. But there is a possibility that he thought he was doing the correct thing by ministering to the people in Ekon's absence. I have all of the silver we've collected. There hasn't been a caravan spotted. There's been no chance to... I would, of course, relinquish it to the father for use...
Ekon, do you have Stone of Truth?
Not this morning, but tomorrow.
Forgive me, are there dungeons beneath the manor house?
Tomorrow we will determine what your true intentions were.
He goes.
And he,
Genie goes. It sounds like you got an apprentice, Ekon.
didn't your apprentice shoot a guy?
I didn't have an apprentice.
Okay, let's go with that.
She's not my apprentice.
I think for right now, I guess we just have to place him under guard. We don't really have
You know what? I don't think we've established this yet, so I'll leave it up to you guys whether there's dungeons underneath the manor or not.
Absolutely.
I think there would be a basement at the very least.
Now, a basement or a dungeon?
Why not both?
It's a basement that's been converted to a dungeon.
I would say that there's probably a small dungeon underneath the manor house.
Because
Like, this is Ravenloft. It's probably a sex dungeon.
the way Victor said basement, I'm picturing like there's a rumpus room and like a pool table.
Well, I'm imagining wine cellars and maybe a few cells for the local lord to throw someone in for the night who's misbehaving.
Okay, but what I'm asking is there a dungeon? I mean, like, the kind of dungeon you would expect to find in, like, a horrible Ravenloft manor.
You know
Yes.
what it's Ravenloft, so yes.
Okay. Like, chains in the wall, like a drain in the floor.
Yes, a rack, maybe one of the little sarcophagi with the
Okay,
the
you're
needles
making
on
it
it.
weird, Victor.
Why not?
Okay, so, I mean, are you having these 3 men thrown in that hole?
Until we determine what was really going on.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're not like treating them poorly. Like I think
We'll
if it can be made
nice.
like to at least be livable with like a space to lay down and sleep.
They'll be given
Yeah.
food and water. They're not going to be whipped. They're being locked up until I know what's going on.
So you
And
have
we'll not put
rushes
the
brought
ringleader
in.
in.
You have rushes brought in. You're not chaining them to the wall, but you're going to put some guards on them.
Yeah. Where's Lahir when you need him?
I think he's back in Sigil.
Did they find their way back to Sigil? Oh no, they
So-
got really off course.
Yeah, if Plaid go out to Sigil, he's going the wrong way.
Well, he's out of Ravenloft. He's doing something right.
So after an hour or so, you're 3, you start to get things a little under control. Edmont, you find a couple of the laborers. You tell them to.
Build a trough.
So you're going to instruct them to build an enclosure for the goats and have a trough with water, and there's no grazed
Yeah.
land to build it on. You know, that's a problem you'll have to solve later. But
Yeah, we'll have to come up with formulate an animal feed for them of some variety.
and
even know what
whatever
goats
was
eat.
planted in this one particular plot is useless, and you already weren't 100% sure you were going to be able to get a good harvest before winter sets in. So one way or another, you're probably going to need the meat of these goats to survive.
It's going to be a lean winter for sure.
And as you guys are reconverging, having put out some fires in the village that sprouted up, Evie, actually only Evie, you're the only one. It just seems like the village is a lot livelier than it was when you left. You can't explain it, and you couldn't prove it because you hadn't done a head count before you left. But you're pretty sure you have more villagers now than you did before you left to go meet the oldest tree.
I mean, Ekon said there were girls, like, making rope. I don't remember there being any girls except for Demetrius's daughters.
And yeah, looking around now, you do see younger children in the village that you would swear none came with you from Castle Avernus. You're sure about that. And yeah, you had some hangers-on and a family or two kind of attached to the wagon train, but it's frustrating. You can't explain where they came from, but if you ask around about it, everybody has a very logical story. They just all affirm what you thought you already knew. They came with you from Castle Avernus or joined the train en route.
And the people who were already with us, they don't say anyone new has come into the village since then?
A lot of them seem to have known these people for years.
What does Tinny say?
What does Tenny say?
Yeah.
Tenny has been running herself ragged trying to see to these goats.
Uh-huh.
When you point it out, she kind of... I mean, I don't spend all of my time keeping track of our small folk.
Yeah, but you would have noticed children, right?
There are none that are her age that you can see. When I say, I'm talking like maybe 11, 12, older than Tenny. I mean like younger teenagers, not like still in diapers. Except for Demetrius's family, which you already knew.
Huh.
This is weird.
Obviously, there's something supernatural going on instead of just...
Do any of them look like people we recognize?
And it's just like Tenny says, you already didn't recognize all of the people that came with you from Avernus. You've never done a head count. Even if you did, don't have an eidetic memory. You don't know all these people.
Oh, but I mean, it's not like someone showed up and they look like Ruby. Yet.
Okay, no. As far as that, I mean, you'd have to spend a little while observing to make sure, but nothing's jumped out at you yet. Also, you're Ruby.
Oh God.
So I think it's at some point we need to take a full census of who we have here, and
Good idea.
we need to do that anyway for distribution of of goods, because the way it's looking, it's going to be a lean winter this year, and we're going to need.
I mean,
we're
we
gonna
had
need to,
less than 50 people before we left.
yeah,
That is a
and-
number that we had the number of how many people we had.
and now we have probably more than that.
Yeah, considerably more than that.